Hello, hello. Welcome to our weekly Bringing Calm to COVID virtual gathering. I'm so happy to see you all here. Please take a moment and introduce yourselves in the chat. You can just say where you're joining us from. It's always fun to see all the places in the world where people are coming together. I know looks like we have Veronica from Honolulu. Welcome, Veronica. That makes me think of the beautiful beaches. Oh, so nice. So today we're going to be spending some time. We had sent out a survey, which some of you filled out. Thank you so much. Just asking what folks are needing right now and what would most support you. And I wanted to just start off by having you all do a quick check-in with yourselves, and then we'll be doing a short guided meditation, and then talking about how to navigate change with intention and how to access and trust your inner knowing during this time. To start off, I just want to check in and ask you all, how are you today? How are you this week? And specifically, what are your struggles and what are your celebrations? So if you could take a moment and just get out a piece of paper and a pen. I have my handy notebook right here that my daughter made, and write down, what are you struggling with and what do you want to celebrate, either about yourself or your family or how you're living life right now. So I'll just type that in the chat as well. What are your struggles and what are your celebrations? Just take a moment and write that down, and I'm going to do it with you. So for those of you who just joined, we're writing down what are your struggles and what are your celebrations. And if you're comfortable sharing it in the chat, I would love for you to do that. If you want this to just be a private exercise, then you can write it down on a piece of paper and you do not need to share it in the chat. But it would be helpful to see in the chat if you're comfortable sharing. So taking out a piece of paper and a pen and just writing down, what are your struggles and what are your celebrations? And then when you're done, if you could type it in the chat, if you're comfortable sharing, that would be awesome. I'm still writing down my struggles. So taking a moment, what are your struggles and what are your celebrations? You can write down several things, like I'm still going on, now I'm going on my celebrations. So you can write down more than one thing. All right, and then when you're done, if you could share it in the chat, I think it's going to be a great way to inform our conversation today. So I see Vanessa shared, one struggle, keeping soothing, sustainable relationships at home with all the members of the family. Yes. Such a good one, Vanessa. Kathleen said, struggle, reconciling disparate points of view, no North Star to seek for guidance, and celebrations, sunshine and nature coming to life. It is beautiful that, at least here in California, it's springtime, the roses are blooming, and there's so many, all the flowers are starting to bloom. And there's this sense of nature carries on. Nature is so strong. Who else wants to share your struggles and your celebrations? You can also unmute yourself if you want to just share it verbally. Barbara said, I'm struggling with our unfolding national situation. Yes, you're not alone in that, Barbara. What do I want to celebrate? Using this period of isolation to reintegrate parts of myself that have been chipped away by a narcissistic relationship. Beginning to show up for myself. I love that. I'm grateful for my neighbors and my loving cats, my friends, both near and far. Thank you so much for sharing, Barbara. Really appreciate it. Veronica said, struggles, pivoting my business, feeling overwhelmed. Totally get that, Veronica. You were not the only one making major pivots to your business, feeling incredibly overwhelmed by all that you have to do. Celebrations, got a new client, feeling healthier. Yay, that's awesome. Sylvie said, I'm struggling to find the chat and be on time. Well, you're so cute, but here you are, so we can celebrate that you actually found the chat. And then Vanessa shared her celebration, being able to access online content, a webinar like now, to keep parentheses unlearning in order to grow. So true, Vanessa. I have found that to be the case. The more I learn, the more I realize all I really need to do is unlearn everything. Like there's some great quote about wisdom, that wisdom is unlearning everything you've ever learned. It's much more articulate than that, but yes. Lisa shared struggle, attachment to outcomes, prioritizing what comes first in my business pivot, heavy-heartedness. Yeah, I feel that too. Celebrations, my incredible communities of support, authentic friendships, and people who believe in me. Oh, love it. And Vanessa also added celebrating small moments of simplicity. That's beautiful. Thank you. Anyone else who just joined, we're just writing down what are your struggles and what are your celebrations. So you can type that in the chat at any point that you'd like. So it's interesting. I mean, so many of these, pretty much everything that I've read in the chat with struggles and celebrations, I have experienced as well. So you're not alone in all of this. I mean, whether it's struggling with our unfolding national or global situations, or pivoting your business or your work, feeling overwhelmed, trying to balance and keep sane with all the different personalities in your household. There's a lot that's going on for struggle. And then the celebrations, the beauty of nature and the friendships, that this sense that we can connect even though we can't be physically together. There's so many ways that we can emotionally connect with the people we love. So there is at the same time a lot to celebrate. And then Sylvie, oh, I love this one. Sylvie said, I finally succeeded in lowering my expectations regarding homeschooling. Yay, much more calm. Dude, I'm so like this with you on that one, Sylvie. I mean, my daughter, if she does like 1/3 of the classwork in the morning or for the day, I'm like, you know what? We're good. Our family's coping with a lot right now. And some days she does it all, and some days she doesn't, and it's all fine. Lisa said, also celebrating, I think you mean me, and the continuations of these sessions, and for my request asking you all what you needed. Yes, for those of you who missed it, we sent out a survey. I'll post the link in the chat, because we're gonna probably convert these Bringing Calm to COVID gatherings into some small group coaching circles, and we wanted to kind of understand what you all are struggling with and how we can better support you. So if you haven't filled out that survey, please do. I'll post the link in a moment here. And we'd love to get your input on where you're wanting support. Alyssa said, I'm celebrating. My daughters are home from college. Struggle, the job search is rough. Yeah, that can be a very real struggle. Thank you for sharing, Alyssa. And so wonderful that you have your daughters home from college with you. That can be some really special time you wouldn't normally have. Kathleen, grieving the loss of a family member at a most unusual time doesn't seem real. I feel you on that, Kathleen. As many of you know, my mom transitioned to the non-physical 3 weeks ago yesterday, and it's been weird. In some ways, I feel like I've actually been insulated from COVID, because what I was going through caregiving and my mom's end of life situation felt so much bigger. So almost like this week was the first week I felt like I was even trying to work and deal with COVID and in a bigger way. And so it's a strange time if you have something big going on in your family, totally separate from COVID. Yeah, I feel that. All right, well, thank you, everyone. It warms my heart to read what you're all sharing about both your struggles and your celebrations. I feel so much our connected humanity. And it like makes me want to cry. You know, we're all struggling, and we can all find things to celebrate, and both are true. And it's actually going to be really connected to one of the themes we're going to be working with today, which is this concept of being able to hold everything. That, you know, as I've deepened into my own spiritual practice, I've learned that we often can tend to think in black and white, good and bad, this or that. And the more you kind of expand in a, I don't know, more soul-based way, there's this sense of being able to hold the paradox, of being able to hold, the good and the bad and merge them and see that they're kind of the same thing in this crazy bigger way, or that the parts of yourself that you're ashamed of and the parts of yourself that you're proud of, being able to hold both and integrate them into wholeness of you. And so that's some of what we're actually going to be working with today. And so there's, both are true. There is profound struggle going on right now, individually and in the world. And there is also beautiful things to celebrate, connecting with our children or our loved ones and being more present, noticing nature. There's all this. So it's all happening at the same time. And Sylvie, thank you for sharing. She said, since our last session, I feel more at peace and supported just knowing that you all are here and that we can share some wisdom. Thanks to Vanessa, what a relief. Oh, thank you, Sylvie. Yes, and we're going to be doing that today, sharing some wisdom. And if anyone feels inspired to share any wisdom right now about some of the things people are struggling with or celebrating, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and share. I was curious if anyone has found things that help you when it comes to balancing different family members, keeping, as Vanessa said, keeping soothing, sustainable relationships at home with all the members of the family. I'm curious what people have done to help keep relationships soothed and calm and even joyful during this time when many people are cramped down into a small space together. So what have you all found has worked or hasn't worked? Anybody want to unmute and share your wisdom with us?
Hi, it's Lisa. So one of the things that I've been really keeping myself accountable for is not assuming that I know what everybody needs, and just really like taking the time from a place of care, like ensuring that we're still getting some one-on-one time together to say, how are you feeling today? Like right here, right now, and sweetheart, like what do you need? And just ensuring that every conversation is starting off that way, and that I'm not attempting to control or insert myself where I'm not needed, and that I'm being respectful of the need for safe space. Like my daughter really enjoys a lot of nurturing and attention, but my son, who's 16, really wants independence. He doesn't like want me constantly asking all of the time. So he's like, you know what, ask me less. Let me be. And just being okay with that, and whatever each person needs is absolutely okay. And then doing that for myself, like, how am I feeling right now? What do I need? And then giving that to myself versus expecting other people to know and magically give it to me or do it for me.
I love that. That's so helpful. And the thing that really sticks out for me in what you said is also checking in with people every day, because it might be different every day. And I have found that to be the case in our family as well. And with myself, where, yeah, like you said, some days my daughter needs alone time and she wants to go on a walk by herself. And other days she wants to always have me near her. Or some days I'm tired and don't want to do anything. And my husband was expecting that. And then another day I had all this energy and I was helping out a lot and doing a lot. And I got like mad at him because we were both trying to work in the office at the same time. And he was on calls and I was on, and he was like, I thought you weren't really going to be working, so it's navigating the changing dynamics in ourselves and in our homes. And just that ability to check in with yourself and pause and say, well, how am I today? What do I need today? And then to extend that same courtesy, that same pause to your family members of like, how are you today? And what do you need today? That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Lisa. Anyone else want to share what you've noticed that's helped you navigate, especially tight quarters with a lot of people? Susanna said, my husband is not a nature talker, or maybe a natural talker. So we are working to express how each of us feels, and it really helps us to be empathic. Thank you for sharing. Yes, I had a girlfriend who I actually thought was an extrovert who told me yesterday she's an introvert. And when she gets home, her husband keeps wanting to like connect and talk to her. He's in sales and he's definitely an extrovert. and all she wants to do is like put on a TV show, and so navigating, I think some extroverts are wanting more connection because they've lost some of that, and introverts are like, I need more quiet and more space. So just honoring what's true for each person is important. Who else? Anyone else have wisdom about how to navigate relationships in close quarters, or what's worked for you with your family, or setting boundaries, or having like space or quiet time? Anybody else have thoughts on that? You can unmute yourself to share, or you can type in the chat.
Hi.
Hi.
This is Linda Constant from Nature Nurture.
Welcome, Linda.
Thank you. Yeah, my husband and I have miraculously been doing really well. We each have our own office. And so in the morning, we meet together for breakfast. And then after breakfast, we each go in our own office. And then we meet again. We both stop work at 12 if we can. But most days we do have lunch together for an hour and a half, and then go back into our offices and then have like 5 o'clock is the cutoff. And then we have our evening together. So that really, really helps me a lot because, like a lot of people right now with my business, it's, navigating so many different things. And so it can be stressful and exhausting. And so then just being able to be with him and just chill out, and we play games or watch a show that we like together.
That sounds lovely. I feel calm just listening to you describe it.
Oh,
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and I love that you have structure. You have a flow to your day that works for both of you, and you kind of have this structure in place that you do. And I have found that as well, where like the blend of like alone time focused and then together time.
Right.
Finding the flow of what works for your family unit is important.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Linda.
You're welcome.
And then Sylvie said, we're lucky to have a big enough apartment so each of the 4 of us can be in one room on our own. That is nice, Sylvie. Yeah, and my husband and I just tried working together in this office this week, and it's normally my sacred space. I meditate in here. I have like my altar set up, and he's on work calls, and I did not like sharing my space. But we realized we have a portable desk, and so we're going to move it in a different room and then each have our own room. And so these little things that it's so simple and obvious when I say it, but we weren't doing it, and we were both getting a little bit annoyed working in the same space. And it was like, well, we could put this in the bedroom. It's not the end of the world. Yeah. So just tuning into what you need, like even spatially, to feel kind of grounded and secure. Because I thought, well, if we're both working quietly, it should be fine. But there was even something of having his energy in the room with me that I actually just, no offense to him, but I didn't like. So, yeah, it's okay. Let's see who else shared. Kathleen said, listen to what others are saying, not what your head is telling you they should be saying. That's a good one. Thank you, Kathleen. Some good wisdom. Yeah, Sylvie said she doesn't like sharing her space either.
Hello, everybody. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
This is Nicole. Hi, nice to see you. Nice to see you, Linda. From our hi guys. I see a bunch of people. Sorry, I joined a little bit late, but I'm temporarily in like a loft apartment that is essentially one big room, and my husband's working from home. Yeah. So I was curious if anybody has any suggestions for how to I'm in another room right now, but he can still hear me. But I was thinking, like, when I'm in the room with him, like making my lunch or having coffee or doing anything, I always feel like I want to talk to him. And I can't tell if he's on a call or not, because has anyone developed any like system if they are in the same space to like say, I'm working, I'm not working, do not disturb. Like, I almost want to put up a flag or a poster. I don't know, but we haven't figured anything out yet. So I'm open to any suggestions, maybe if anyone does have a small space.
Thank you for sharing that. Anyone have suggestions for Nicole? Oh yeah, Linda, go ahead.
Yeah, I remember reading something, gosh, this was from the 70s, about couples living together for the first time and this type of thing. And one of the things they did was, if the person did not want to be talked to, they put a scarf on. And then it was just a quiet kind of indicator that I'm off right now. Please don't talk to me. So
I love that. That's a great idea, actually.
I think your
I have
husband will be
scarves.
down for wearing a scarf, a silent.
Well,
a silent
maybe I could have him like hang it on the back of his chair or something. Like,
sure.
Oh
Yeah.
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 that's so great. I was like, because I don't have a lot of things. We just moved, which is another whole nightmare.
Mhm.
But I don't have a lot of my stuff, so I don't have like I couldn't make a poster if I wanted to. I have scarves, so that's a great, or even a sock. I don't care, like something.
Right, something.
Great idea.
Yeah. I love it. And Kathleen said, could he set office hours or wear headphones yourself if you're tempted to talk? That's an interesting idea.
Also a great idea.
Yeah. And I will share, I mean, for this may or may not work for you, but one of the things I did, it was confusing for my kids a year or two ago because sometimes they would come into my office to chat and I would be like at the tail end of writing a blog and kind of want an interruption. And I would open the door and like greet them with a hug and come have a little chat with them. And other times I'd be teaching a webinar and be like, do not come in. And, and then sometimes it was sort of a gray zone where I was working, but once they came in, I didn't mind being interrupted. So what I did with my daughter is she made like red, yellow, green circles that she cut out of colored paper. And then I would tape them on my door. So red meant stop, do not come in. Mommy is teaching a webinar or like really focused on writing or something, can't be disturbed. Yellow was like a gray zone of, maybe you can come in, it's in between time. And then green was definitely come in. So if it was the tail end of my work day and I knew I wouldn't mind being interrupted, I would put the green on the door. And she loved that because it was kind of like exciting. What's it going to be? And we did it off of the, red light, green light children's game. But I don't know if there's like a version of that with you and your husband where you have like one that's like a definite yes, I want to connect. And one is like definite no. And then, yeah.
I actually like that because there's times where I'm like, can I turn on the radio for music or is he in the middle of, so that's kind of like, yes, yellow it's okay if you're making noise and that's fine. Red is like, stay away, the camera's on, like you're going to end up in your pajamas on the screen.
Right. Yeah.
I like that.
I've even had that because my husband will be working like on the day that I'm with the kids and he's working in here. And at one time I had to go get my computer for something and I was like in my pajamas and it's like, is he on a Zoom call? Am I going to be in the background with all his colleagues right now?
Exactly.
Or is he just working? It's unclear,
I love that.
Having systems to communicate can be helpful during this time.
Fantastic. Great suggestions. I see some people are typing ones too. Thank you, everybody. This is awesome.
Yeah, I'll read. Let's see. Janet said, my coping strategy is to pay extra attention to my diet so I can keep it as healthy as possible. I find it contributes most to my nice and sound sleeping, and it guarantees calm and a stable mood. It's a great coping strategy. Thank you for sharing. Sylvie said, I take all my calls with headphones, so now my kids know when they see me with headphones, they have to ask first whether I'm online or not. Yeah, excellent. So some good coping suggestions on how to manage it all. I've also found for my husband and I was on a call with all these working parents from some of the top tech companies. Earlier this week, we hosted this panel for the Parents in Tech Alliance that I co-founded. And one of the things people were saying is how much people have Zoom fatigue. So many employees right now have Zoom fatigue. Like I know people who have literally 10 hours of Zoom calls scheduled in a single day. And one of the coping strategies they were suggesting was, try not to make everything a video call. So if you're managing a team, or you can say, hey, this one is, video optional, or make it an audio only call. And that way people could even maybe go outside or go on a walk. Sometimes they don't have to be on their computer, or they could at least have video off. The other thing they said that really helps working parents or people with small kids in particular is to not start all the calls right at the top of the hour, because often that's also when kids are starting homeschool and parents are trying to have to get their kids set up on homeschool and join a work call at the same time. So if you can start your calls at like 9:15 or even 9:30 instead of 9 o'clock or 10:15 in the morning, to help working parents who are juggling a lot at this time, that can be helpful. So my husband and I have done that where we'll take turns. One of us will be on an audio call and we'll go out on our deck or go on a walk while the other one can be in the office. And that really helps break up the space and the boundaries a little better too. Yeah. So many great ideas. Thank you, everyone. We're like crowdsourcing solutions. It's awesome. All right. If anyone else has thoughts for Nicole or anyone else, please just type in the chat. We love getting everyone's perspective because we are all stumbling our way through this together. All right. So now what I wanted to do was take you all through a guided meditation, and then we're going to do have a conversation around a couple of topics that came up in the survey and things you were saying you wanted support in right now. How to access and trust your inner knowing, and how to get clear on your intentions during this time of massive change. So first, I'm going to lead you all in a short guided meditation. So if you could find yourselves in a comfortable seated position, and if you're in a chair, I recommend uncrossing your legs, just resting your hands gently in your lap. And as you're ready, allowing your eyes to gently close. And I know many of you have asked for strategies to lower your anxiety and feel more calm. And we had talked about box breathing on one of the earlier calls, and I promised I'd bring you all through it at some point. So we're just going to start off by doing some box breathing together to help everyone access a more calm, relaxed state. And then I'm going to lead you in a guided meditation practice. So box breathing, actually, it's something that they do in the military. People are trained in this technique so that when they have to go into a combat zone, they can use this type of breathing to stay calm and to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. And it's very simple. What we're going to do is inhale for 4, and I'll walk us through the counts. And then you hold for 4, then you exhale for 4, and then you hold for 4. So you can imagine it like a box, inhaling and then holding, and then exhaling and then holding. So as you're ready, starting to tune into your physical body and just noticing how you're feeling today. Perhaps doing a check on, what's my level of anxiety right now? On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being highly anxious, and 1 being very relaxed and calm. And just see what your number is for today, for right now. And then we'll do some box breathing together. So we're going to inhale right now for the count of 4. So inhale, 2, 3, 4, and then hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4. Doing 2 more rounds. As you inhale, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, and hold, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. And hold, 2, 3, 4. And then just returning to your normal breathing pattern. Allowing the breath to come naturally and easily. Perhaps noticing the rise and fall of your chest or belly as you inhale and exhale in a relaxed and easy way. And just checking in with your level of anxiety on a scale of 1 to 10. Just notice, did it change? Did it go down or up or stay the same? Without judgment, simply noticing how you feel now. And if it felt a little bit awkward or uncomfortable to do that breathing exercise, just allow that to be what is for today. And now I'd like to take you through a practice to ease through transition of what to do when things are changing. And this is based on a practice from Elizabeth Lesser's book, Marrow. So you're going to start by bringing your awareness to focus on something in your life that is changing or ending or even dying right now. So bringing your focus to something in your life that's changing or ending or dying right now. And breathe gently as you consider whatever transition is most significant right now in your life. And if there's one that feels so big and scary, you might not want to do that one today. You can ease your way in by picking something a little bit smaller if that feels best to you. So you choose bringing your awareness to something in your life that is changing and breathing gently as you consider whatever transition is most significant or whatever transition you want to focus on today that's going on in your life at the moment. And as you focus on that transition, notice any feelings that arise: trepidation, excitement, resistance, anger, annoyance, or grief. Simply note the feelings as they arise. And every time your feelings get the better of you, come back to your breath. Become aware of your breathing. And see if you can meet your troubled and contracted feelings with your calm and expansive breath. If you want to practice giving yourself some self-compassion, you can, saying, "This is hard. This is a moment of difficulty. May I be kind to myself during this transition." Breathe, sigh, and stretch out on the river of change. And take a moment to remember times when you have resisted change in the past, when you had a hard time or when you struggled during a transition in the past. What are your unique ways of showing up at times of transition? Do you tend to cling to the old? Are you the last one to leave the party? Or perhaps you're the first one to head out the door without a goodbye, so you don't have to face the end of something. As you imagine endings or transitions that you've been through in the past, simply note, what is your pattern of coping or responding when something is ending? Simply remembering that none of these coping mechanisms is better or worse than any other. They just are. See if you can observe your own patterns and conditioning around change, around endings, without judgment. It just is. It's not bad or good right or wrong. It just is. And it can be helpful to understand how you tend to show up during times of transition or times of ending. And as you remember times when you may have resisted change in the past, regard how things turned out in the end. Maybe not how you thought they would or how you wanted them to, but in the end, there you were. There you were, wiser, stronger, and still alive. Tip your hat to the poignancy of death and the promise of rebirth. See if you can smile. Relax. Allow yourself to break open. Sit tall with dignity and patience, watching your breath rise and fall, rise and fall. Pray for the courage to welcome this new change, this current transition, with openness and wisdom. And as you ask for this support, it can be helpful to let yourself think of or remember this circumstance or this transition in your life that's particularly difficult for you at this moment. Let yourself feel what it's like to be here in the thick of this difficulty. As you do, let yourself remember and see just what it looks like and feels like to be in the midst of this difficult circumstance. Notice what your body feels like. Notice the emotions and states of mind that fill you at this time. Notice the level of tension or discomfort and how you are reacting and responding to this difficulty. Let yourself be in the throes of it and notice what everyone else is doing, their difficulties. See it, remember it, feel it. Notice perhaps your desire to run away and not have to feel this or acknowledge it. And let yourself witness it getting as bad as it ever gets. Now, in the midst of this great difficulty, this massive transition, all of a sudden, there is a knock at the door, or a ring of the doorbell. Or perhaps if you're outside, you notice at a distance that someone is coming. If you're with others, as you imagine this difficulty, you say, excuse me a moment, I have to answer this. And you prepare to greet who is coming. A great wisdom figure, a luminous being who carries compassion and understanding and courage, and will show you how to work with this difficulty. It might be the Buddha, or Gandhi, Kuan Yin, Jesus, a deceased relative or mentor, a figure from history, anyone who is luminous and a carrier of compassion and wisdom may appear. So let yourself be surprised as you turn around and go out to see who arrives. This luminous figure comes right up and acknowledges you and says, "Having a hard day?" And you smile. And they say to you, "Let me help you. Let me show you how I would handle this. You give me your body, so I am inside you, and I will let you become invisible, and you can follow me along. No one will know that the Buddha or the goddess of infinite compassion is within you." So now you follow them back into the difficulty. Notice as they enter how their body feels. Notice too the states of mind and heart as they attend to this conflict or this difficult situation. Notice the states of mind and heart as they navigate this transition. Notice how they listen to others. And allow the difficulties to begin to play out. Let them show you how they respond. Let yourself visualize, imagine, see, sense in any way you can what this luminous being in your body can do to receive and respond and act with wisdom and compassion in this difficult circumstance. Let them teach you. How do they react and respond with wisdom and compassion during this time of transition? As they listen and respond, let them finish up what they can do for now. Now they turn to whoever they are with and say, "Excuse me, I have to go out for a moment." And they leave those circumstances wherever they are. You both go back to the original place you met, and they give you back your body, and they resume their original form. They are now once again a luminous being, and you are back in your body. Before they go, they reach under their robes to offer you a gift. Let yourself picture, imagine, think of, or sense any way you can them placing a gift in your hand that is a symbol of exactly what you need at this time. If it's not clear, hold it up to the light. Allow it to be known. You thank them for the gift. Before they go, they touch you gently and whisper in your ear a few last words of advice, just what you need to understand during this time. Let yourself hear, listen, imagine, think of the words of advice from this wisdom figure to help you through such difficulties. As you receive the wisdom from this figure, carry this, the gift they've given you, the understanding and demonstrations for how to enter this difficulty wisely. Hearing any final words of wisdom or advice. Pay your respects to them and let them go. And now bring yourself back to the present moment with a little bit of reflection. So if you'd like, you can get out a piece of paper and a pen and just journal, write down anything that you noticed or experienced during that guided visualization. Perhaps wiggling your fingers and your toes as you come back to the room. And just writing down any words of wisdom that figure shared with you, or perhaps if they gave you a gift, what that was. So taking a moment to just reflect and write down anything you experienced. And for those of you who are just joining us, we just did a guided meditation. It actually began with a practice from, box breathing, which is a technique to lower your anxiety. And then we did a guided meditation that's based on the work of Elizabeth Lesser and her book Marrow, which is about her sister dying. And then I actually spontaneously ended with a visualization that's from Jack Kornfield, where you call in a luminous, wise being to show you how they would handle difficult circumstances in your life. All right, well, we'd love to hear from some of you what you noticed or experienced. You can type in the chat or you can unmute yourselves to share. What was that like for you? What did you notice? Was it easy to do the box breathing? What was your level of anxiety before and after? Did it change at all? And what was it like thinking of how you've handled transitions in the past? What your strategy is? I recently started picking up this book, Transitions, from Carol Robin, one of my mentors who was on one of our earlier Bringing Calm to COVID calls. She recommends it. I have not finished it yet. I've just started it. But they talk about how we all have our own way of handling transitions. For some of us, like we're the last one to leave the party. We're clinging to the old. We don't want to let it go. Other people don't like the discomfort of a transition, so they leave quickly, or they're the first ones to go. They try to rip off the Band-Aid. So just thinking about what are your own patterns? What are your own coping mechanisms when it comes to navigating transition? What have you observed about yourself? So if you want, you can unmute yourselves to share, or you can type in the chat. I see a lot of people still writing, so I think folks are wanting to journal about what they experienced. So yeah, please keep writing if that's what you want to do. Thank you, Linda. It was helpful to have you here. I'm glad you joined us. And then Sylvie had a question. Can coping strategies be different depending on whether the change is initiated by us or is imposed on us? Such a great question, Sylvie. And it's so interesting you asked that, because I found that to be true for myself when I was reflecting on change in the past. When I was the one to initiate it, I navigated it much more smoothly than when it was imposed on me. So I'm curious what's true for you or others, Sylvie. Have you noticed a difference when a change is imposed on you versus when you're the one initiating it? For me, I seem to bound into a change if I'm initiating it. And I kind of can go kicking and screaming a little bit when it's imposed on me. Oh, Leslie, thank you for sharing. She said my dad came to me, told me I could do this, and gave me a big hug. That just fills my whole heart. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I love doing these visualizations where you call in a wise being or an elder or a family member who's transitioned, because you just never know who's going to show up, and it can be a really special connection to experience that. And Lisa was met by the goddess of compassion and unconditional love. She gave me a compass, and when I looked to see which way to go, I felt a deep knowingness that I was exactly where I needed to be. It was very comforting and reassuring. Oh, that's beautiful, Lisa. Thank you for sharing. I know I had two people, when they had me put my hands on my heart at the very end and said something about like, stay true to, this is why you need to write it down right away because I've already forgotten part of it, but it was like, stay true to me and let your heart guide you forward. And Kathleen said, regarding the luminous figure, it kept shifting, hard to get to one being. So the glow became a mosaic or choruses of different voices and bits of wisdom I've heard in life. Oh, that's beautiful, Kathleen. And you just notice, if it was hard to experience the luminous figure, and then you had several show up, and then your mind comes in and starts chatting like, is this how you're doing? Am I doing this right? Is this how it's supposed to go? That's totally normal. And you can just say, thank you, mind, and just come back to the visualization, whatever's arising for you today.
I was just going to say, in the transition section where we were visualizing past transitions, and then there was a point where you said something like, and you're stronger, you're more resilient, you're alive, or something like that. But I could actually like feel I felt like a smile turn on. I'm alive. Like, okay, I've done this before. It was a really, I felt physically different thinking through like coming out the other side of transition before. So that was really interesting and good.
Yeah, so cool. Thank you for sharing, Nicole. Anyone else want to unmute and share what you experienced?
I will share. I am in a place where it's just not great visually, so sorry about that. But I was really surprised. So when the figure came to knock on the door, I actually already saw who it was, but like had to open the door still. But it was actually Jesus, and he was holding a bouquet of long-stemmed like mums or something. And then when he entered my body, I felt like a lightness, like a buoyancy. And so when he went back to face everything that I was facing, it wasn't that he was laughing at it, but he was definitely just like, okay, so this is it. And then he got down on the ground and looked at it like a curious dad playing with their child, like it was a little snail. So super playful. And then when he left, he gave me like a little inexpensive crystal that you put up in the light that reflects iridescent light. And I hugged him, and then I heard him say, "Never give up hope. You are my beloved." So,
oh, that's
yeah,
so
thank
beautiful.
you for the lead. It was really very powerful.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Erin. Yeah, I love these kinds of visualizations because sometimes really powerful experiences can happen, or even when it's really subtle, the words of wisdom I receive are always, they might be really simple, but they land, in a way that really hits me and feels profound. So I'm so glad that happened for you. Thanks for sharing. Nicole said she also saw Jesus and felt much lighter when he entered, like a weight was lifted. Beautiful. And Lisa made a great point. She said, I've noticed when somewhere if I feel someone's not listening and is attempting to push, manipulate, or force me into a decision or change, I'm very resistant. Even if it's a good idea, I need to feel that I have choice. Yeah, I totally get that, Lisa. I've felt that way myself. Anyone else want to share anything you noticed or experienced during the meditation? Again, you can type in the chat or you can unmute yourselves. Okay, well, the point that I wanted to make, that I sort of said, some of the, ad-libbed and added some things to Elizabeth Lesser's. She has this meditation on dying and transition, and I just thought this is so appropriate for so many of us right now. And then I added some of my own to it. And one of the things that I've been getting from this book is how there is no right or wrong way to handle transition, but we do often have sort of like a pattern or a way in which we respond to it. So if you look back over transitions or change in your life historically, there might be a way in which you respond that's sort of typical for you. And simply noticing that without judgment can be very helpful, so you understand how you might be responding in the current situation and just get some context on that. And I love the point they make in this book is that none of those coping mechanisms is better than any other. It's not like if you're the last one to leave the party or if you leave really quickly with no goodbyes, neither one of those is like better than the other. It just is. And so just noticing what are your tendencies, what's your comfort level with change, how do you respond to change? And then the more you can tune into, and this leverages some of Rick Hanson's work and the neuroscience behind it, but tune into the times in the past when you got through it and you were resilient. And that language that Elizabeth Lesser has around, yeah, I was still alive. I was wiser and stronger. Like you said, Nicole, like, oh, I'm still alive. That's a great way to reinforce in your brain that you made it through this, change before, you've made it through difficulty before, and you can do it again. So it actually strengthens those neural pathways and helps build resilience when you can remind yourself that we can do hard things and that you have done hard things before. And I might feel like, well, never to this extent, but still there's a way in which you can leverage your history and things you've navigated in your life and remember, like, and I survived that and I made it through and I can do this too. And the other thing I just wanted to touch on today, and for those of you, I know we have a few grads from our Create Work You Love program, so this might be familiar, but I talk a lot in Create Work You Love, which is about creating, the career of your dreams. It's this group coaching program that I lead. I think the next one will be in the fall. But I talk a lot about the hallway. There's a great expression that they say when one door closes, another door opens, but the hallways are a bitch. And that's so true. I have found that, when one door closes, another door will open, but it's that in-between place that we hate. The hallway is so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable to hang out in the hallway. And the thing that I've been reflecting on is that globally, we're in the middle of a global breakdown. We haven't quite made it to the breakthrough, but also globally, we're in the hallway. We are in the hallway and it is dark and it is scary and we don't know if there's going to be a door or a window that's going to open up or what's going to happen next. We're in the hallway in the sense that the old way of being is gone. We've stepped out of that. That door has closed in a lot of ways. And yet the stability of whatever, new normal we're going to have has not fully emerged. The new doorway has not fully opened. So collectively, we are in the hallway right now. And I have actually a lot of experience and thoughts and beliefs about hallways and how to navigate them that actually I think apply to this, even though this is so massive and global. It's actually the same as when you've been in the hallway before. So the first thing I want to just name and acknowledge is that the hallways are a bitch. And excuse my language if it offends you, but they really are. And it's incredibly difficult and uncomfortable to be in a hallway in life. Now imagine like everyone's in the hallway together at the same time. It makes me think of like a horrible scenario where you're in some sort of a movie theater or a school and there's a fire drill and everyone has to leave one room and you haven't made it out into the open yet, and that feeling of like stampede and frenzy and like group chaos and panic that can happen where you're all trying to get out and trying to find the light or trying to get to the exit. That's kind of what's happening in a global way. Like some people are handling the hallway better than others, and there can be a sense of panic in the hallway. Like, where's the exit? Where's the exit? How do I find the light? How do I get out? Where's the doorway? So the first thing is to just acknowledge and name that we're in the hallway. And there can actually be relief in that, like, oh, right, it's hard, it's dark, it's scary, it's unknown. The hallways are hard for us because we don't like the in-between. We don't like the no thingness. You know, nothing is like no thing. And I talk about this a lot in Create Work You Love when it comes to a career transition. And if any of you have been through a big career transition or switch jobs, or maybe you're in one right now, you know that when you leave an old job, that's hard. But until you have the new one, you're like, you feel really unsettled, really ungrounded. You have a foot in both worlds. You feel unstable. So that's what's happening, you know, on a bigger scale right now. And people, it's usually our human nature. We want to avoid the hallway. So then what we do is we want to grab and cling on to something as soon as we can to get out of the hallway, or to kind of almost even lie to ourselves and pretend like we're out of the hallway even when we're not. And that's why I often see in a career transition sometimes, and some of you might have experienced this yourselves, a person will grab onto another job really quickly, even though it's not what they really want. And they know in their heart that it's not what they really want, but they just don't want to be in the hallway. So they're like, okay, I'll take this one. Oh, that door. Oh, you know, the first door that they see that gets them out of the hallway, they run through it because they just don't want to stay in the hallway. But the thing that I've discovered is that the hallway is where all the magic happens. It's where the transformation occurs. It's in that place of vulnerability and darkness and uncertainty that the richness of our soil gets like churned up, and we can become a different and more expansive and wiser version of ourselves. So the hallway, it really is like, you know, the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. There's that time in the chrysalis where the caterpillar has to disintegrate and become a gooey mess. It literally like completely disintegrates and becomes a gooey mess before it can be a butterfly. So we're all in a place where one of the best things we can do is allow ourselves to be a gooey mess. That is our work right now, is to stay in the hallway and allow ourselves to be a gooey mess. And what I have found is helpful when I'm allowing myself to be a gooey mess is this interesting balance of allowing everything to fall apart, to disintegrate, allowing myself to be a gooey mess, while at the same time having some intentions about my butterfly, like what I want it to look like, what I want it to feel like, what the new vision is of the way forward. And that's an interesting balance of, can I let go of everything and disintegrate, be a gooey mess, while also being clear about my intentions? Because it's not about, you know, being a victim or suffering unnecessarily or staying in the hallway forever. So you don't have to like completely fall back and not do anything. But one of the things you can do when you're in the hallway is start to think about your intentions of what do you want? What would you like? And get clear on that. So how can we allow ourselves to fall apart, let go of control, while still maintaining a sense of vision or kind of a general direction that we'd like to go in? And that's an interesting balance. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this talk, and Vanessa just mentioned it in the chat as well, yes, embracing the paradox of life. So holding opposites at the same time is a deeply spiritual practice. And I've learned on my own path, the more I awaken to my soul and my true nature, the more I'm able to hold all things at once. You know, the parts of me that feel whole and the parts of me that don't feel whole, and just embracing all of it. And the hallway is a place where we can do that. We can kind of, it's like you go down through the darkness until you hit like this rock bottom that's who you really are and that can hold everything. And some of this, like, I feel like it's hard to put language around it until you experience it, but we're all experiencing some version of this right now. And I just wanted to share a vision that I got 2 days ago that really helped me, in case it's helpful to some of you. I went on a hike. I have this hike that I really love that's like 12 minutes from my house, and it's tons of like gorgeous redwood trees and winds up this big hill, and lots of like ferns, and it's just so lush and green. And I have this like secret spot that I discovered on the hike it's a circle of ancient redwood trees. And sometimes I think it might be one root. They grow in this really tight circle, and it's off the trail. It's sort of like hidden. I discovered it one day exploring, and I sit in the middle of that circle and meditate. And I look up, and there's like a circle of sky, and then the redwoods all in a circle around me. They just feel like this grandfatherly presence. So anyway, I was on this hike, and I was crying about my mom having, passed, and grieving, and then I was happy and smiling. And then I went to the redwood trees, and I sat in the middle and meditated. And I just asked the question, what do I need to know right now? What will help me to go through this transition, this transformation, grieving my mom, everything that's going on in the world? What's going to really help me navigate all of this? And I saw this image of a massive storm at sea, like just huge waves crashing and pounding the rocks. The sky was all gray, and the white caps, that ginormous waves just crashing in the ocean and pounding these really big rocks. And then I saw this gorgeous, incredibly soft sandy beach with turquoise water and palm trees swaying in the breeze, like this beautiful tropical island. And then the message came through that the storm and the pounding water on the rocks is what makes the sand so soft. That it's that pounding force on the rock that disintegrates it and makes this beautiful soft sand that I get to walk on this imaginary beach. And I did this, it was this sense of like, they're the same thing. The storm pounding on the rocks and the soft sandy beach are the same. Even though I might label one as bad and one as good, or one as something I want and one is something that I don't want and I want to avoid at all costs, it's the same. And that just kind of like integrating these opposites can be a really powerful tool during this time, because it's our minds that create stories that decide, oh, the storm is bad and the beach is good. And yes, losing your job often seems bad, but perhaps there is some good at the same time. What if you lost your job because you're meant to be doing something else? Or what if you lost your job because your family needs you right now? Or what if you lost your job because you're going to learn to be even more resilient as a result of these challenging times? So sometimes when something's very difficult, it ends up being a blessing, or there's a gift inside of it for us to understand and to embrace. All right, so I just want to pause there and just open it up to some sharing. What are people's thoughts or experiences? Have you been in the hallway before? How does that feel for you? What has helped you navigate hallways in the past and kind of get through those periods of uncertainty and the discomfort of transition? So you can unmute yourselves, or you can share in the chat. What are your thoughts on the hallways, the transition moments in life? And also just embracing the paradox of letting yourself fall apart, but then wanting some structure, some intentionality about how you want to show up in the world. And Nicole said, I love the hallway analogy. Sylvie dropped out during the hallway. Didn't want to be in the hallway with me, huh, Sylvie?
Vanessa?
Yes, hello.
Yeah, hello. I was thinking the hallway, like, I don't know if we are all women on the call, but anyway, men or women, we all have the feminine and masculine energy. So for me, embracing the always like embracing our feminine energy, because usually society is masculine energy, doing. Whereas in the hallway, we can really focus, as women, it's even more important, I think, on the yin energy, if you're familiar with Eastern perspective. So I think it's perfect time, and it can manifest through just being, reading, or I don't know, whatever you like and whatever is creative and feminine for you.
Yes. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, that yang energy, that more feminine, the receptive energy. Thank you, Vanessa. And Quad said patience, prayer, and distraction, i.e. exercise. Yes, so true. That really helps when you're in the hallway. Who else would like to share something about what has helped you in the hallway? Anne said the concept of listening to what my body is telling me has been most powerful when making transition decisions and navigating the hallway. Yeah, I completely agree, Anne. In our Create Work You Love program, we even teach people how to do muscle testing so you can tune into your body and the wisdom of your body. Lotus made a fabulous point. She said, I find to have an easier time dealing with these kinds of issues when I'm getting enough sleep, eating healthy, and yoga. Yeah, you need a lot of self-care when you're in the hallway, for sure, and just taking really good care of yourself. And Kathleen said, change the light bulbs in hopes there's a different view ahead. Yes, Nicole, were you going to share?
Yeah, so I've been doing the weekly planning guide that we learned from Create Work You Love. And even though some weeks I'm like, what could I possibly plan this week? Because I can't hardly plan the rest of my day, let alone a whole week. But it's actually helped give me some structure. And like, so this, for example, I scheduled in, right? So that I'm not feeling so just in the dark. Like I have some little milestones and little things to do, make sure I'm taken care of during the week. So that's been helpful for me.
I love it. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, we did. And the weekly planning guide, for those of you who missed last week, you can watch the video on the recording page. We actually took everyone through that weekly planning process. It's a great way to have some structure amidst the chaos. And that, I love Arena's question. She said, what are some strategies to speed up and exit from the hallway? I know, don't we all want to kind of speed it up? Okay, so that too, I have found is a bit of a paradox, because in some ways, the more you surrender to the hallway, the sooner you get out of it, which is kind of annoying, but kind of true. I have found, at least, especially if your goal is to get out of the hallway in a way that where you feel aligned with what you're doing next. If you try to just rush out of the hallway, as I said, without getting clear on what you want or being patient, you can jump to something that doesn't feel like it's aligned for you. So ironically, surrendering to the hallway is actually one of the first steps to getting out of it more quickly. And the other thing, and this is a beautiful transition to what we're going to talk about next, is it helps to start with intention and just simply have the intention to access your inner knowing to help you get out of the hallway. So, you know, I've told this story a few times, so I won't go into the long version, but when I quit my job in finance to start my own business, I had this epiphany where I realized, oh my gosh, my whole life, I've been following my mind and my ego and my wallet when I've been making choices, especially with my career, and I haven't been following my heart or my intuition. And maybe that's why I'm so unfulfilled. So I made a very clear and bold commitment to myself to follow my heart and my intuition. And at the time I said, I don't even know what that means. I don't even know how to do that, but I'm going to do that for 6 months with the very clear intention of finding work that I love. And if I haven't found work that I love at the end of that 6 months, I can always take a safe job or do it the other way. So that really helped me. And I have also found that the times that I'm stuck in the hallway, or that I go out of the hallway, but it's not what I really want, it's because I'm in should. Like, I should do this. I should say that. I should market my business this way. I should please this person. So there's a way in which we, you know, lose our North Star because we're too busy chasing gold stars or people pleasing, or we lose our sense of self. So it's very important when you're in the hallway to spend that time going within and getting to know yourself and who you are and what really matters to you. What are your core values? What would you like in your life, so that when you leave the hallway, the door you open is the one you really want. And I have some thoughts. You know, we got a few questions in the survey we sent out about, well, how do I get in touch with my inner knowing? How can I, you know, improve my intuition, or get more clear on like what I really want? And so I wanted to just touch on that briefly. And I'm actually going to I just put a link to the survey in the chat. So if you didn't fill it out, please do. All right, so before we go into how to kind of tune into your inner knowing, I just want to touch on some of the other comments. So Lisa said, it resonates so deeply. I've been in the hallway for some time, leaving my corporate career 4 years ago because it had become so uncomfortable and exhausting. I jumped straight into coaching, got sucked back into the vortex of burnout and overgiving. I've realized the thing I've been searching for was to become fully myself, not just find the next job. So integrating all the parts of me that had become disconnected and living from that place of gratitude has given me permission to be in the hallway as long as I need to. From that place, my true calling is coming into view. And it can take as long as it needs to. It's beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Lisa. Oh, Christopher, such a great question. Christopher asked, how do you allow yourself to be in the hallway when those around you need or want you to get out of the hallway as soon as possible? For example, demands of a partner or spouse or kids. Oh my gosh, perhaps you could set a time limit. Yeah. So it's so interesting, Christopher, because I have also noticed, yeah, I mean, sometimes there are very real situations where people are dependent on you financially and they don't really, like, your family maybe can't support you hanging out in the hallway for a long time, or you might have to compromise and take something to pay the bills. But then you could also be saying, like, and this part of me is still in the hallway. You know, this thing is just solving a financial need, but I still don't know, and I'm still uncertain and in the hallway in other ways. I have found, even when you don't have a desperate financial situation, the people closest to us, they don't like us to be in the hallway, like, at all, no matter what the financial situation, because they're uncomfortable about the hallway too. And have you noticed, like, if anyone has, like, thought of quitting their job or leaving their job and you tell people, immediately they're like, well, what are you going to do next? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? They want that certainty. They want that answer. And so what did work for me was to put a time limit on it because it was too scary for me to do it otherwise. So when I decided, okay, I'm going to give myself 6 months to follow my heart and my intuition. And then I could tell my husband that. And then when people asked me, like, what are you doing? You quit your job with no plan. And I would say, well, I'm doing this wacky experiment for 6 months. I'm just going to follow my heart and my intuition. If that doesn't work, I'll get a traditional job at the end of it. That actually calmed other people down when I could tell them, like, I'm going to just try something different for 6 months. And then if that doesn't work, I'll go the traditional route. So having, like, a simple story to tell people, it, like, eases their fears. And you have to realize that's their discomfort with being in the hallway. And people will project that onto you because they don't want to be in the hallway. So they want your certainty. They want you to have a plan, and they want you to be certain to make them feel safer. So part of it is also recognizing, like, that isn't your job. And one of the things about really getting to know yourself and being loyal, more loyal to you than to others, is you have to be okay with the fact that you're going to disappoint people sometimes, and honor your truth, whatever that might be. Okay, and then Linda said, I think sometimes you have to think of the hallway as a state of being rather than a transition from one state to another. Embrace the hallway and keep putting one foot in front of the other. Yes, it's recognizing that sometimes the journey is as important or more so than what we think of as the destination. So true, Linda. I mean, in a bigger way, we're all in the hallway our whole lives, and, like, the rooms that we think we go through when we go in and out of doors, that's just an illusion. Like, we're all basically always in the hallway. We just trick ourselves to pretend like we're in a room. And Vanessa said, learning to say, I don't know, thanks for caring. I'll let you know the good news when it comes. That's been helpful for her. Yes. And then you asked a follow-up question, Irina, what if the time limit depends on other people, not you? E.g., the new job doesn't come in your time limits. So maybe you set a time limit and then it ends and you haven't found the new thing. Well, for me, I found the thing during the 6-month period, so that was really nice. And if I hadn't, I think I would reevaluate and have a conversation with my partner about our financial situation and what needs to happen. And maybe there's a compromise where you temporarily take something to get some money, or maybe you say, you know what, I know I said 6 months, but actually I need to make a new agreement. I want to take another 3 months or whatever it is. That's the other thing. It's very liberating when you realize you can make a new agreement with people. That doesn't make you out of integrity. If you reevaluate and you say, actually, now I'm here and I've learned this, and now this is what I want or need. I need to make a new agreement. Where we get in trouble is when we just like don't want to have that conversation, then we don't say anything. And then the other person's wondering, well, what's going on? It's been 6 months. You haven't said anything. So having those kind of conversations up front can be helpful. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to just touch on today was this concept. We had a few questions in the survey around how can I access my inner knowing or my intuition? How can I get more clear on, you know, what my deeper knowing is telling me? And this is one of the best ways I've found to start to navigate the hallway. So when it comes to accessing and trusting your inner knowing, there's 2 things that I think about with that. The first is, how do you access it? How do you even know what your inner knowing is telling you? And then the second is, once you've accessed it, how do you trust it and actually take action on it? Because those are kind of 2 different things. Some people, they really struggle with like, I don't even know what my inner knowing is telling me. And other people, it's like, well, I know, but I'm too, I don't think it'll work. How am I going to make ends meet? I'm too scared to try it. So they don't want to, it's hard to trust it or take action on it. And there's different kind of things that support each of those. And I'm just curious, with those of you on the call right now, which of those 2 categories do you struggle with more? Is it harder to actually access your inner knowing, or is it harder to trust and take action on the inner knowing once you know what it is? So you can just type in the chat, what's more difficult? Accessing it in the first place, Sylvie said, and Lisa said, trust and take action. Accessing, yeah. Both, yeah. All right, so far there's more votes for accessing, although it's almost 50-50. Yes, it's both. Okay, great. Wow, let's talk about how to do that. So what I have found is, first of all, your inner knowing or your intuition is, it's like a muscle that gets stronger with practice. You do have to exercise it to strengthen it. And it starts with a clear intention of just, hey, I want to access my inner knowing. I want to really know, I want my inner knowing to guide me forward rather than what I should do or what I think other people expect of me. So you can actually set an intention around that. Like I did when I said, okay, I commit to following my heart and my intuition for 6 months to find work that I love, no matter what. So just taking a moment and setting some sort of an intention of whether you have trouble accessing or trusting and taking action, you can set an intention about that. So I'm going to set an intention of, I make a commitment to accessing my inner knowing, and if not everyone's religious or spiritual, but if you do believe in whether it's God or the universe, you can even pray and call on that power and say, guide me forward. I like to say, like, universe, move in me, as me, and through me, and show me, the best next step, or show me what to do. So setting a clear intention about actually being able to access your inner knowing or being able to trust it helps. And then the other thing that helps is to start small. So you can do it in really small ways. Like, what should I wear today? And it's weird to ask that question, but sometimes like a certain shirt, I feel like will almost pop out at me and be like, wear me, and so, or what should I eat for lunch? Like, let me really tune into my body. And it's just taking that time to pause and check in with yourself and ask yourself, what do I want? Or what do I need? And not always going with the plan. Like I've found, it's a silly example, but sometimes I'll have decided I'm going to go on a run that day. And then when I check in, it's like, oh, I don't really feel like going on a run. I'd rather do yoga or dance. Like sometimes I'll make a plan for something. And then when I check in with my inner knowing is different than the plan. And so the more you just do those little check-ins with yourself throughout the day, like, what is really true for me right now about this? Like, what is really true for me right now? Do I want to go on a run, or do I want to sit on the deck and read a good book? So just taking the time to check in and starting small. and being willing to forsake your plan for what is true in the moment. That's a great way to start enhancing your inner knowing. And like I think Barbara said about being more loyal to yourself than others and honoring your truth, even if other people don't like it. One of my dear friends, Kristen Wheeler, told me years ago, she had this great sentence where she said, my inner knowing was telling me to do something that was going to disappoint someone at work. And she said, well, Vanessa, if you betray yourself and you don't honor this truth, ultimately you're betraying that other person too. And that has really helped me to think about whether it's a romantic partnership or a business relationship. If you're not honoring what's true for you, ultimately you're going to betray the other person, you're going to betray the relationship, because you can't be in a healthy, thriving relationship if you're not being honest about who you are and what you need. That doesn't mean there won't be compromise. That doesn't mean you might sometimes be taking actions that aren't everything that you want, but you have to be able to be honest with people about, what you need. And so just being clear about that. So setting a clear intention and then starting small. And the thing that I think people get tripped up on almost the most, and I still get surprised by this, my inner knowing is so subtle that it's like, for me at least, it's like a little whisper that if I don't hear it, sometimes it's gone. So often for a lot of people, it shows up as sometimes a gut feeling, but sometimes it's like a tiny little whisper or a nudge or an impulse. Abraham Hicks talks a lot about impulses. So one way to strengthen your inner knowing is to just pause and just notice your impulses. Do you have an impulse to go clean out a certain room in your house? Do you have an impulse to go call a certain person? So if you can pause throughout your day and check in with what are your impulses and then actually follow through and take action on them, that will strengthen your inner knowing. So often it is just this subtle little whisper or this impulse. Like I remember this is a silly example, but I was traveling once for, I think, like a speaking engagement. And I walked by a drugstore and I had this random little thought of like, I should go in and buy tampons. I didn't. And then I ended up like with my period in an uncomfortable situation. I didn't have any tampons with me. And I remember looking back and being like, oh my gosh, my intuition was totally telling me that I was about to get my period. But it was almost like my personality was like, that's a weird random thought. I don't have time to go into CVS right now. And I just squashed it. Right? So often we'll get these little nudges and we tamp them down, we ignore them. The other thing I've found, especially when it comes to sometimes like big decisions about your life or your career or who you really are, that your inner knowing or the things that you're really like inspired by, your ego and your personality will sometimes judge them as weird. Like it'll be like, that's weird. Why do you want to do that? That makes no sense. You shouldn't call that person. You shouldn't do that thing. That's weird. So it's almost like we have these safety mechanisms that are built in that tell us that our inner knowing is weird. I have found that to be the case very often. And so now for me, if I think some impulse of mine is weird, it's almost like a red flag to pay attention to that impulse, because that impulse is probably something that's really aligned for my soul, but my ego is judging it as weird. So let's say there's like or weird or impractical. Like those are some of the stories the ego will come up with. Like, you're unemployed, but you really want to take a creative writing class. And you're just like, you see the course description and everything in you just lights up. And then that voice in your head comes in and is like, well, that's weird. You're not a writer. That's so impractical. You're going to go spend money on a creative writing course right now. You're never going to make money as a writer, and that inner critic will come in with all these reasons why that thing is weird or impractical or doesn't make sense right now. And the other thing is this inner knowing, it's often nonverbal. Our soul speaks to us in images and feelings, in dreams, in nature, in symbols, and as whispers and nudges. In our Create Work You Love program, I talk a lot about following your energetic breadcrumbs. It's like, what are the things that bring you energy and that light you up? When you follow your energetic breadcrumbs, that is honoring your inner knowing. Your inner knowing always brings you to things that energize you or light you up or feel exciting to you in some way, even if they're also a little scary. Okay, anyone have thoughts about accessing your inner knowing? Anyone else have wisdom about how to access your inner knowing and hear that voice or sense it a little bit more easily that you want to share with the group? Or times when you did or didn't listen to it and what happened? That can be fun as well. Those times when we've ignored it and then we realize, oh, I should have listened to it. Vanessa said the sound of water in general helps for me. Beautiful. Yeah, that's the cool thing. Even within nature, some of us are like mountain tree people. Some of us are ocean people. I mean, we're all of it, but you might notice that you can access your inner knowing better if you're like on a hike in the woods, or if you're walking on the beach, or the sound of running water. So just play around with like, when do you get that kind of information? Is there a certain environment or certain circumstances that make it easier for you to access that? If so, then you want to go to those situations more often. You know, when you're in the hallway, go spend a lot of time at the beach, listening to the waves. Yeah, thank you for sharing, Vanessa. Who else wants to share? What's helped you access your inner knowing? Like tune into your deeper truth and take that aligned action. You can unmute yourselves to share. You can type in the chat.
Hi. So for me, I'm usually a pretty deliberative, logical, analytical, reason everything out, pros and cons kind of person. But when it comes to my inner knowing, when it's, you know, do I really want to do that thing, that end of the hallway, or a door that I'm going to walk through off the hallway that I'm permanently in? It's almost like a gut punch kind of in my gut feeling. It's just, and I could, you know, I don't have that many kind of in my gut reactions in that way. So it's like easy to listen to, easy to recognize, easy to listen to. So.
I love it. Yeah. So it's a totally different source. Normally you're analytical, more in your mind, and then you get these like gut punches and, oh, okay, I got to listen to that.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Who else wants to share? Anne said, after prayer, I'll get a mental message that opens with my sweet child or my precious one. Oh, that's beautiful. And then get some wisdom. Nicole said some of the meditations we did in Create Work You Love were helpful. I especially like the one where we walked into our ideal workspace and home and envisioned it. Yes, that was the guided visualization, a future self. Yeah, that can be a helpful way to tune into our inner knowing, to visualize or imagine our ideal future life. And I found for me as well, connecting with my future self in meditations or visualizations can really help me get clear on that inner knowing. Lisa said, getting out into nature, even if it's standing on the grass with bare feet, then asking my heart a sincere question and just notice what comes up. I enter into a dialogue with my heart. Oh, I love that, Lisa. I'm going to try that more deliberately. And I know Liz Gilbert does this, where she writes herself a letter from love almost every single day. So for those of you who are writers, you could write a letter from your heart or from your intuition or from love. Oh, it's funny. Kathleen said, make some kind of written note or commemorate the moment you know your intuition is speaking up in hopes of better remembering the next time. That's a great point, Kathleen. I will say it helps to journal and write these things down, because even then, like looking back years later, you can validate and go, oh my gosh, my intuition told me to do that thing. And then here's how it all played out. Because the other thing our personality, our ego, our mind will do is downplay it. And 3 years later, we'll forget that we had that amazing intuitive insight that we listened to that led to all these good things. And the mind will be like, oh no, that wasn't that big a deal. That didn't really happen. So if you write it down as it's happening and then you look at it afterwards, it really reinforces, oh yeah, that did work. Makes it easier to do it in the future. And then Christopher said, sometimes if I'm able to think about myself as a young girl, find the young girl inside of me, it's easier to connect to my inner knowing, a more unfiltered joy or a dislike for things without chatter. Yes, so true. And yes, Christopher said one of my webinars, yeah, I've done some guided meditations that help you kind of connect with your inner child, and that can be a great way to access your inner knowing. And then Arena said, I'm having trouble distinguishing inner knowing from the voice of common sense or real concerns. Yes. Anyone else have thoughts for Arena on how to distinguish between inner knowing and the voice of common sense or real concerns? What has helped you all in the past?
Something that you had shared before, Vanessa, stealing this from you, but was often the inner voice is the really quiet one. We talked about how the ego is so loud, and mine particularly, but like the should voice is so loud in your face, and the inner voice is typically like really quiet and might whisper. So I think if you're hearing it really loudly, it's probably not your inner voice. But that's, you know, something to think about.
Yeah, that's a great perspective. And that definitely can be true for a lot of us. Yeah. Sometimes for me, when it's been like a major life transition, the voice is loud, but usually it is quieter. Oh, and here's the guided future self visualization. I just found that audio. So I just put a link in the chat for the meditation that Nicole mentioned that takes you to your future self. Yes, Sylvie said, I can relate to that. I hear much more should than whispers. Yeah. The other thing that I've been playing with in the last year that's been really true for me is that, how do I explain it? My inner knowing, so if something is a really big yes, like, oh my gosh, yes, I really want that. Like, that's the thing, I'm so clear, then I'm really in tune with my inner knowing, and it's clear, and that's a yes. And then there's been times when I'm like really waffling back and forth, like, is this the thing for me or not? I can't make up my mind. Even on things like a vacation, a family trip somewhere, there's been times when I've been really uncertain. And what I have learned for myself, I don't know if this is true for others, is that my maybe usually means it's a no. So if I can't make up my mind about something, it's usually a no. And when I'm really aligned and really clear, it's a really big, obvious, and easy yes. And then, I mean, sometimes, of course, like, we'll have our inner knowing and our mind will come in and doubt it. But when I can't get clarity, for me, it usually means I don't want to do the thing that I'm having a hard time getting clarity about. And that really it's a no, but I'm not letting myself say no. So that's been like a helpful rule of thumb that I've used in the last year or two when I'm unsure about like a vacation or a choice with my business and I can't make up my mind. It can help me. Okay, Lisa shared, I will thank the practical voice, thank it for trying so hard to keep me safe, and that I do care about what it has to say. Then I ask my soul, what do you need me to understand about this? Please provide me with a clear answer. And somehow this happens so that I can stand in the integrity of my knowingness and say yes to myself. I love that, Lisa. And she just offered a really great intention. When I was talking about setting intentions, if you ask myself, you know, what she said, okay, what do I need to understand? Please provide me with a clear answer. So that's a very clear intention of like, okay, my intention is to get clarity. Like Abraham Hicks talks about this as well. When you don't know what you want, then what you want is to know what you want. So you can actually set that as an intention. What I want is clarity from my inner knowing, from alignment with my soul, my deeper truth. Show me what that is. And that's an intention, to get clarity. And then once you set that intention, it's important to be receptive to the answer coming to you. So you want to notice like the people, the circumstances, the books, the things, the signs, the synchronicities, the things that are crossing your path. You know, often our inner knowing, if we can't hear it, it's almost like it'll come through a friend or a book recommendation. Like it's like this greater universal intelligence finds all these creative ways to reach us. So pay attention if there's a sign or a serendipitous thing that happens to you, you know, there might be a reason for that. Okay, excellent. Any other questions about inner knowing? The other thing I just want to emphasize is that the more you trust it and take action on it, the easier it gets to do that to next time, because you build confidence in that muscle. You also, when you take action and then something good happens and you don't die, you realize, oh, I don't die when I listen to my inner knowing. People don't abandon me. Like, everything's okay. In fact, everything's even better because I listen to it. And then it gives you more confidence to listen to it next time, even if it's weird or impractical or like a small little nudge. You don't have any, like, data to rely on when you're making that choice. And the thing with trusting it and taking action on it, a lot of you said that's what you struggle with. In the Create Work You Love program, we watched the video clip from the Indiana Jones movie. There's one of those movies where he has to cross a bridge, and he's like has to step out into a total void. And it's not until he steps out and weights that foot that this invisible bridge appears. So it looks like he's going to fall like into a chasm, but then the bridge comes up to meet him. And that's often what it's like to trust and take action on your inner knowing. Like, you feel like you're stepping out into a void of nothingness or a cliff, or you're going to die. And then the bridge comes up to meet you. So I think where a lot of people get caught up is they want a guarantee. They want to know how it's going to end up before they're willing to trust it and take action on the first step. The thing that I still get caught up in or confused about is it's like, I don't want to listen to my inner knowing unless my inner knowing tells me the end goal. Like, where am I going to end up with all of this? But the way that it works a lot of the time with these impulses is you just get one impulse, and you have to actually take action on that one before you get the next one. And that's why I talked about, following your energetic breadcrumbs, because it really is like one will lead you to the next, will lead you to the next, will lead you to the next. Steve Jobs in this beautiful Stanford commencement speech talked about how all the dots connect in hindsight. And that's sort of how it works with your inner knowing sometimes. Sometimes it's like one choice and it's clear and you're done. But other times you have to follow like a series of dots and you don't know where they're going, these little breadcrumbs. And then you look back and you go, oh, that led to that, which then led to that. And then it all makes sense. So there's a way in which you have to have a tremendous amount of trust and patience in the process to take action on these little nudges when you don't yet know where they're going, where they're going to lead you. It's sort of like following breadcrumbs in the hallway before you get to the next door. You don't know what door is going to open or what it's going to look like. And you have to trust that these breadcrumbs are going to take you there. So that has been helpful to remember for me that, okay, I don't have the answer right away. I don't know the 11th step. I don't know the 5th step, but I know the first step, and I'm going to take that one and own it. The other thing I've learned when I set the intention to access my inner knowing, for me still to this day, like if I don't get the answer right away, it's like I think it's not working and I want to just give up and abandon it. Oh, I can't tune into my inner knowing. But sometimes you have to ask the question and then wait a day or a few days or a week before the answer bubbles up and emerges. So sometimes we want instant results, especially in the West. Our culture is so much about instant answers, instant results, and that's not always how this works. Sometimes we need to be patient with the process. Okay, well, I know we have about 15 minutes left. So if there's any other questions about, accessing your inner knowing, you can type them in the chat. Sylvie said, I love this image of the bridge meeting you when you step into the unknown. Yes, thank you, Sylvie. And then Vanessa said, let go of the reply and the answer to get the insight. So true. Yes. All right. So what we wanted to do is spend a little bit of time, and Sherry, if you ever want to chime in with this, feel free to unmute or chat. But we wanted to ask folks, what do you need in terms of a support group or structure? We've been toying with the idea of offering these group coaching circles to support people as you navigate, not just COVID, but what do you want to have come out of this experience? This situation with the COVID-19 crisis it's breaking down old ways of living and working and being. And we believe the challenges of these times can actually be portals to greater purpose, to greater soul alignment, greater growth, greater human potential. So as you imagine navigating the challenges ahead and intentionally creating, your new normal or the vision of what you want in your life, I'm curious to hear, what would you most want to get out of joining a coaching circle or a program? You know, what kind of support are you looking for? And I know some of you might have already filled out the survey, but we also just wanted to set aside some time to have a conversation and hear from you directly. So I'm curious, what do people, like, what are you looking for? What would support you right now? I heard from a lot of people in the survey that just getting together with a group of like-minded people to help you kind of feel less alone and also have accountability around the new vision of what you want to create would be really helpful. So that's something that came up as a theme. But curious to hear what other thoughts you all have. So you can unmute yourselves and just share directly or type it in the chat. What would you like? What are you struggling? What kind of support would you like at this time? Okay, so we have someone who said, wondering how to make real change in the government. Another person said, I'm navigating a job search and would like to find a way my next role could be of service to others yet still support my family. Yes, to help me know what I want. Mm-hmm. The structure of meeting and talking about stepping into the void and trusting it will support us would be helpful. Yes, thank you for sharing that, Barbara. That's one of the things I want to say. When you're in the hallway, one of the best things you can do is like find a tribe, you know, find other people who are in the hallway with you so that you feel less alone. And Nicole had a suggestion about a Slack channel, a way for people to interact as you need it. Interesting. Cool. Thank you for sharing, Nicole. Hadn't thought of that. Sylvie said, not sure what I need. It's still difficult to listen to the inner knowing, but I found incredibly helpful to follow your live and listen to your wisdom. Oh, thank you, Sylvie. I know sometimes it's like, we don't even know, we can't articulate it, but then we know when we see it. It's like, oh yeah, I want that. So if you're like that, I get it. Like, I don't even know what I need, but I think I would do that. Yes, the tribe. Oh, Barbara, I know. To help our government remove people who are addicted to money and power and replace them with people with wisdom and compassion and a vision of the whole. I know there is a shift happening in our collective consciousness, and the more that we each step into our authentic aligned power, the more we're starting to create, you know, collective change with that. So I love it. Thank you for sharing. And Lisa said, I appreciate accountability and connection with like-minded people, being braver about living into my purpose and allowing others outside of a safe community to see me. I'm a career business person who has awakened to the deeper truth that I'm spirit having a human experience versus the other way around. It's changed the way I want to show up in the world. So feel ya. Yeah. And it's interesting because then once you have that kind of awakening, but then you're also living in the normal human world, and it's like, well, I still need like a business strategy, and I need to, you know, make these choices, and how do I honor both at the same time without getting out of alignment? And you know, be surrounded by other people who have that same sense of values and that same type of awakening. It can be lovely to be in community with other people like that. Yes, I hear you. So thank you for sharing. All right, well, this is really helpful to hear from all of you. Anyone else want to share anything else that you feel would support you during this time, or, you know, as you imagine navigating the challenges ahead, what you would most want to get out of joining a program or a small group coaching circle? Yeah, with Lisa, what you thought you were going to do is not what you feel called to do, and so now you want support for making that transition. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
This is the first time I'm speaking up here. Thank you for inviting our comments. So I think we're all living in kind of a bubble right now, and it's a safe place to sort of explore and think and go inwards. I'm a little bit worried about after the bubble is opened or broken, falling into those same traps as before, and to avoid those pitfalls. So just a way to like restructure or reformulate how we'll navigate that.
I love that. That's such a good point. Yeah, thank you for sharing. How do we like we're in this bubble, and how do we maintain that when it ends and stay true to like our values and what really matters to us, and yet be back in like the real world. Yeah, awesome. Good point. Thank you for sharing. That's really helpful context. Anybody else want to share? Yeah, and to that point, it is another reason why I find, you know, whether it's this community or a different one, but just having community during that transition, that as things normalize more and more, it's going to be so vital to help us remember what you felt during the pause, remember what, you know, the clarity you had when you were in that bubble, and remember that's what matters to you as you go back into the world. So having people in your life, whether it's through a community like this or your own friends and colleagues, who will lovingly hold you to that vision and remind you, like, remember what you said mattered, remember how you said you wanted to be. Are you still staying true to that? So yeah. Yes, okay, I love, Sylvie, what you said. Yeah, I feel a positive energy during these live sessions, and that's what is helping me the most. It's a current I want to dive into. I know, right? This is why I love doing live group stuff, because there is something with the collective energy that you can feel that's palpable. And, you know, quantum physics hasn't totally proven this yet, but I personally believe that when we get together in groups and we're very intentional and we have a strong container, it's like each individual's energy creates this group energy, and then that group energy propels every individual forward on their path. So it's like we are all, our impact and our ability to transform is magnified when we gather in groups. So it's awesome. Yes, and Barbara said, mindfulness of a collective community can have a more powerful impact on the larger transformation. Thank you for sharing, Barbara. Yes, I agree. And then Nicole said maybe some daily or weekly journal prompts that we could discuss with the group when we get together. I love that idea. This is so fun. I'm writing down, taking a note too. Awesome. Yes to the group energy wave. All right. And Nicole, I see your question on searching my meditations. It's a good question. You can do that on my website, but I'll look into it and we'll let you know. All right. Anyone else have thoughts? You can type in the chat or unmute yourselves. And Sherry, I don't know if there's anything you'd add to this discussion, or if you have any questions you would want to pose to the group as we're wrapping up. You can say it or send me a chat if there's anything else that you would add or that you would ask. Okay. Just looking at other notes. All right. Sherry said she's loving this discussion. Sherry and I so she led one of the earlier Calm to COVID gatherings, and she and I are possibly talking about collaborating on, you know, creating some offering for you all. She's a little under the weather today, so she's not as vocal. So Barbara said, I feel stronger and clearer. Thank you for sharing, Barbara. Awesome. All right. Well, as we send everyone out into your lives in this bubble, what we're all navigating, I just invite you to be kind to yourselves and, you know, call on that wisdom figure. Like if you have a difficult moment this week, today or later this week, see if you can imagine, whether it was your dad or Jesus or whoever showed up, see if you can imagine that wisdom figure stepping in, and just how would they respond or react? And if you can just even access that a little bit, it will support you so much in acting from a place of greater compassion and wisdom. And then I invite you to tune into your inner knowing. You know, all it takes is remembering to pause throughout your day and check in with yourself. Like, what do I want? What's true for me right now? Or like Lisa said, you can have a dialogue with your heart and just ask your heart, like, what do you need? What do you need? And then listen to what it has to say. So thank you. And we got some notes. People said these sessions are a reset. So thank you. Well, I want to thank all of you for being here with me. It's such a joy to connect with you. And we'll let you know, I think we're going to keep these going, but we might shorten them to 1 hour. and then we'll figure out whatever other structure we end up creating. It's in the hallway right now. It's percolating. All right, everyone. So thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I appreciate all the comments. I got a private comment. These sessions are a reset for my soul and inner energy. Thank you. It's so beautiful to hear from you. I'm grateful to have you all here. And I look forward to staying in touch and having our paths continue to, cross, commingle, having this group energy support each of us individually in creating the lives that we really want in the new reality, whatever that looks like for you. So sending you all lots of love. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful week. Remember to access your wisdom figure and remember to tune into your inner knowing as you can throughout the day. All right. Goodbye, everyone. Much love.
Bye-bye.